When the company received the order to charge, I told my men, I'll be the one in front. You lot have to run right behind me, no hesitation. Anyone who hesitates, I swear I'll turn back and shoot you myself. Now, sitting here retelling it, meeting my old comrades from Regiment 18, Infantry, Division 35, Corps 2, I still remember everything as clearly as if it just happened yesterday. The battle in QuangTri broke out on the 30th of March. At the time, our regiment was stationed at Gang. Let me go back a bit. During Tet, in 1972, my unit was in Ket, Bakjeong, on the 28th day of Tet, right when everyone was preparing for the holiday. We received sudden orders to march into battle. We were on Bashdan Hill having a small outing, completely unaware that we were about to be deployed. We left the hill and marched to Kep Station to board the train. The loudspeaker on the train played the song Tomorrow We Go to the Front, The Road We Travel. The whole carriage went silent. Everyone was emotional and anxious. Outside, people were buying peach blossoms and kumquat trees, preparing for a peaceful New Year. While we were heading to war with New Year's Eve only hours away, when the train stopped at stations along the way, nobody was allowed to get off. Soldiers packed every carriage. Guards lined up along the platform. No one tried to sneak out. Everything happened so suddenly that even I didn't fully grasp what was going on. I remember my father had visited me on the hill a few days before Tet, then a few days after Tet. On the third or fourth day, he came back with B&H Chang and pork rolls. But when he arrived, they told him, the unit has moved out. He could only stand there, unable to see me one last time before I went to the front. On the train, we all wrote letters and threw them along the tracks as the train moved. I did the same, just scribbling my name and the recipient's address. No stamp, no envelope. Somehow my family still received it later. No one knows how it managed to get delivered. But train stopped in Vinh. From there, we continued marching to Gang when we passed Kua Tung near the sea and stepped across the 17th parallel. I paused and looked towards Hien Luong Bridge. For the first time, I truly understood. So this is the dividing line I've only read about in books. Our unit moved into Phuong Dien. Another unit had already liberated QuangTri Citadel before us, so our task was to advance further into Phuong Dien at first. Everyone thought the enemy wouldn't resist too strongly, but reality was completely different at that time. President Nixon was still in office, so the Americans fought back fiercely. U.S. air power pounded the north relentlessly, launching the second phase of the air war, even more intense than the first. Haiphong port was blockaded. Bridges and roads were destroyed. The north was almost isolated. Out at sea, ships from the 7th Fleet crowded the coastline. Whenever they opened fire, I could clearly see the barrels of their guns. The sky was full of planes and bombs. I'm not exaggerating. It was so dense it felt suffocating. Our regiment had only just arrived when we were thrown into battle. The first battle I joined was around the 19th of May, 1972. I was only in my early 20s, a platoon leader, and the youngest party member in the unit. Most of my men were students newly drafted. We were young, but we understood that going into battle meant setting an example and standing firm so others could rely on us. We were surrounded by the enemies. 6th Marine Battalion from the 367th Brigade. We held for 3 days, and on the third day received the order to charge. When we launched the attack, we encountered enemy weapons we had never seen before. One of them was the M79. Its blast was devastating, so we were determined to capture one, just to see how it was built, since it was new to us, but long familiar to them. It took a long fight to capture it. There was even a story that soldiers on both sides would shout across the trenches. Our side, drop your M79, it's deadly. Their side, if you drop your beef, we'll drop the M79. Both weapons were powerful, so they considered it a fair trade. After a brutal battle, our unit suffered losses but eventually pushed the enemy back to the sandy dunes, then forced them to withdraw toward the city. Our regiment fought almost non-stop for more than 80 days, with barely any rest. In August, Division 35 replaced us to continue holding the city. From May to November, it was constant fighting. On the 15th of September, the enemy managed to retake QuangTri Citadel. After that, their aim was to push northern forces all the way back to the Gia-Luong River, and then break through Dong Ha. At the time, the enemy deployed the 6th Marine Battalion, also known as the Mad Buffalo Battalion, which had been the unit that planted the flag on the provincial chief's office. They were sent in to hold positions around the citadel. My platoon was defending the riverbank. When we were forced back across the river, we had to build defensive lines immediately to stop the enemy from crossing. It was the rainy season in November. The That Chan River was flowing fast. After 2 months of defense, our troops began to think the enemy wouldn't dare to cross, so the positions weren't right at the riverbank. Instead, they were more than 100 meters back. The enemy managed to get 2 full companies across. They used rubber boats and even combat divers to stretch cables from the provincial chief's office to our side of the river to pull troops over. We were the infantry company defending that side. The fighting was extremely intense. Artillery fired every day. F-4 jets would bomb at the slightest sign of movement. Our bunkers had to be built deep, in the shape of the letter A. At night, when standing guard, we whispered, "Don't breathe loudly," because even a sound or a breath could give away our position, and the enemy scouts would toss grenades into the bunkers. When the enemy got to companies across, they advanced cautiously. When they reached the forward trench, they realized it was one of ours, and withdrew. Our troops thought it was just a small reconnaissance group, unaware they had crossed in such numbers. Luckily, our technical reconnaissance unit detected it and reported that the enemy had already pulled across 2 companies, possibly the rest of the battalion. Once the alert was raised, the entire line prepared for combat. Our defensive network was a connected system of trenches. Each squad had 2 A-shaped bunkers leading to 3 smaller trenches called shrimp whiskers. At the end of each was a firing hole. Each fighting pair had a B-41, a B-40, or DKZ, depending on the time, and submachine guns. Grenades were carried separately. The order was clear: drive them back into the river at all costs. That day, our unit was ordered to charge. Each platoon had barely more than 10 men. Each squad only 3 to 5. I told my men, "When the company gives the order, I'll run first. You must follow me. No hesitation." I also told them, "If I'm wounded, you drag me back. If anyone leaves me behind, if I survive, I'll shoot him myself." We said it half-jokingly, but the truth is we cared deeply about each other. Live together, die together. No one abandons anyone. Artillery fire was overwhelming. I had never seen such intense fire support. Field artillery, divisional artillery, mortar, everything fired at once. DKB, H-12, 160mm mortar, 120mm mortar. If every battle had that kind of support, victory would have been certain every time. Whenever enemy tanks poked out from across the river, our DK-75 guns blew them apart instantly. B-72 rockets hit every shot. When we charged, I led the assault team. We ran forward, sweeping with AK fire and throwing American M26 grenades into positions suspected of having enemy fire points. The first assault failed. Enemy fire was too strong, especially from their heavy machine gun. A deputy political officer from the battalion, who had just been sent down to the company, was with the group. Instead of carrying an AK, he carried only a pistol. He was shot the moment he raised his head. Then the enemy threw a grenade, wounding several men. The assault collapsed. That night we fired mortar again. The company had 2 60mm mortar. I used to be a 60mm mortar squad leader, so I was sent to check on the teams. After firing a few shells, I saw a flash from the tube. Thought it was enemy counterfire, but it turned out both mortar operators were killed instantly. It was only later that we realized the night, the rush, and the darkness caused a deadly mistake. One round hadn't cleared the tube before the next was dropped in. It exploded inside the barrel. A painful lesson only learned through war. I had never been in a battle with such relentless fire. The enemy was digging trenches and bunkers in front of us. Our troops crawled forward to throw grenades and fire AK rounds. Wherever we suspected an enemy firing point, we fired a B-41 into it. I fired so many B-41 rounds that my ears rang for days. On the 3rd afternoon, after 2 nights and 3 days of continuous fighting, command told us the enemy's main force was paralyzed by our fire, but their battalion headquarters still held out near the riverbank. At the bunkers, our unit received a new order. We had to attack again, seize the entire area, and sweep the outside perimeter to make sure no enemy remained. That attack became one of the most memorable moments of my life. Everyone was tense. Around 2 in the afternoon, the entire unit charged at once. Our uniforms were filthy. We were exhausted. But when the order came, everyone jumped forward with absolute resolve.